Welcome to episode 24, guys. Man, it has been a journey. We are so excited to keep this moving. We've got incredible celebrities, thought leaders, politicians, entrepreneurs coming on here soon, including today's episode with Ross Alex. We've got Ross Alex on, who is also an incredible podcaster from the Started Somewhere podcast, real estate flipping extraordinaire. Also, the man just started and diversified with VA business, helping real estate entrepreneurs all over the place simplify the operations and explode their growth. It's incredible what he's doing, and I'm excited to have him on the podcast. If you haven't left a written review down below, make sure to leave that written review, whether you're on YouTube, Apple, Google Podcasts, everywhere, wherever you're at. Just leave us a review and tell us a little bit about the episode, what you took away, what you're going to implement, who you want to see, what you want to see answered. We definitely want to get these things answered for you guys, so definitely leave those down in the comments below. Message us, DM us, drop on the Instagram. We'd love you all. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started into this episode.
Let's get it. And we are back in the building with another episode of the Dedication to Excellence podcast. I'm your host, Eugene Tamampos, alongside my right-hand man and co-host, Dustin Reyna. What is good with you, brother?
The hat speaks for itself, cash flow. Just excited to go over some actionable tactics today and learn a little bit more about you, brother.
Hey, gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Alex Rose. Love it. So for those of you listening for the first time, the purpose of this podcast is to not just inspire and motivate, but to give you real actionable steps and operational strategies from high achievers who have actually done the things we'll be discussing with them. Because once you're excited, folks, guess what? You actually got to go and do some shit. I know, crazy thought. So today's guest is the founder and CEO of Likewise.com, a company that helps real estate professionals scale their businesses with the help of virtual assistants. He's also a seasoned real estate investor himself and has taught real estate investing to many countless other people out there. He's a master of flipping, so definitely check out his course for some value if you're looking to get into the flipping game or step your flipping game up. He's gone from McDonald's to millions. He is also the CEO, the founder of his own podcast, the Started From Somewhere podcast. We got Mr. Alex Ross in the building, the virtual building today. So again, welcome to the show, boss. Glad to have you, man. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely, gentlemen. And likewise, thank you so much. Glad to be here and hope to provide some value to your audience.
Yes, sir. So the tagline says McDonald's to millions. So we'll get to the millions. Let's start with the McDonald's, brother. Where did it all begin? And bring us back to the beginning of the journey.
Taking me back, bro. Taking me
all
back.
The way back.
Yeah, man. So got started working at a young age, really young. I think like 15, right? As soon as you could get one of those working permits from school.
Yep.
And, you know, I was never one to enjoy being stuck, right? Like I couldn't wait to be able to make money so I can get a car and I could just go. I've always been like a gas pedal kind of guy. I want to go. Worked various jobs, right? McDonald's was definitely one of them. Started working there. Super embarrassed to work there at first, right? Everybody would come by from school and see me working at McDonald's, and it wasn't the best. But, you know, I had to do what I had to do, right? In life, sometimes you got to do what you got to do so you can do what you want to do. And I remember I reached out to my uncle, who is definitely a mentor to me. And I remember being so down in the dumps about working at McDonald's. I was like 18 or so at the time. He was like, listen, Ross, you have to understand that you don't just work for McDonald's, the burger joint, you work for a multi-billion-dollar company. So learn whatever it is that they can teach you, rob them of the information that they can teach you and go apply it elsewhere. That's exactly what I did. Saved up enough money from that job, bought a car, got another job. And that led me on to eventually getting into the hospitality space where I was serving tables and bartending and doing all that good stuff, man. A lot of people out there, I know probably some of the listeners have worked in hospitality before. Mm-hmm. You know, it wasn't making me happy, right? I don't know how deep you want me to go here, but
all the way, bro.
I think
all the way.
Okay. So I think, you know, at times, right, we all come to that fork in the road where we have to take a look at what we're doing, take a look at ourselves and ask ourselves if we really feel fulfilled, right? Like, am I happy doing what I'm doing right now? And what does it look like for me? Like, how does this end? Like, where is this going to take me? And I asked myself those same questions. I was working at a restaurant in the mall. It was actually called the Yard House, popular joint. And I had dropped out of college a few times, you know, went to college because I thought that's what I had to do, right? You're conditioned, guidance counselors in school, right? Get good grades. You got to go to college, got to get a job.
Yep.
It just wasn't for me. Like, it wasn't for me. I would show up to these classes that I'd pay money for, and I'd learn about the Mona Lisa and World War I. And I'm like, how I want to be rich, right? Like, this isn't going to make me rich. And that's exactly one thing that my mentor had told me. He said, Ross, learning about the Mona Lisa is great. Like, it's fun, it's cool, but it's not going to make you $1 million. It's just not. No. So that's what led me to dropping out. And then I got this opportunity, right? I got this opportunity where I was reaching out to my uncle, my mentor. And I said, you know what? I'm not happy. I'm pissed off. I'm miserable. This isn't what I want to be doing. I need a change. And he said, Ross, next week I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to this conference. I attend these conferences like once a year. And it's like a rah-rah, you know, get your mind right event. You can come if you want. It's like, okay. I didn't have any money. I was broke, right? Paycheck to paycheck, spending money on the clubs and all the stupid stuff because my mind wasn't right. I didn't know better. So he said, listen, if you show up, I'll pay for your ticket. I'll pay for the flight. I said, okay, cool. I had a girlfriend at the time and all that good stuff. I told my mom, hey, I'm going to Vegas next week. People looked at me like I was crazy, right?
You're 21 at the time?
22.
22.
I show up to Vegas, first time, man. I had never really traveled a lot in my life. And I thought I was going to be staying at the 5-star Las Vegas that you see on TV. Man, I ended up staying at this motel off the strip. Like, they held the event at this like crackhead motel. I don't know why, but I was sketched out. I was like, what the heck is going on? I didn't even call out of work. I had a shift later that day. Called my boss from there. Say, hey, can't make it. I'm in the desert right now. And they kind of freaked out on me. But anyways, man, that event changed my life. It was that event. The guy who put the event on, his name's Marshall Silver, really popular guy.
Yeah.
Then God changed my life. I've never seen anything like this. They were talking about making money and getting your mind right and hypnosis and, you know, reconditioning, like everything I've ever learned before. It was all wrong. And for the first time in my life, I'm in this room with like 3,000 people. Obviously, COVID, we can't, that's a thing of the past. But yes, right. Folks, one day we were able, a glorious time in our lives. Back in the day, we were able to be in these event centers. So I'm at this event. I'm in a room with 3,000 people and they like truly care about their success, right? So anyways, I completely changed my mindset. I ate fire at that event. Like, it was nuts. I thought I was on like cloud 9. It was crazy.
Was it a Tony Robbins event or something?
Marshall Silver.
Similar. I've heard him speak several times. He's a beast.
The guy's he's a monster. He's one of the best in the business.
Hypnosis and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So my uncle down in Houston, he was there obviously. And he said, hey, you know, he's a real estate millionaire. You know, guy built up $100 million portfolio. It's crazy. And he told me, this is, you know, a few years back, he said, listen, you show up in Houston and you build a real estate business, you know, your whole life can change, right? Like, if you like what you're seeing right now, come down to Houston. I flew back to New York. I kissed my mom goodbye, kissed my girlfriend goodbye, packed up one bag and got on a plane to Houston. Never even been to Texas before. It was like something out of a movie. And I thought I was going to get rich within like a month. And,
but it took 2 months, huh?
It took a little bit more than that. But it was one of those things, man. It was like you come to a point where you either got to put up or shut up, right? And I had nothing to lose at the time. Looking back, man, that was a very bold thing to do on my end. And,
it's a powerful place to be, though, when you have nothing to lose.
Yeah, man, grinded it out and got into real estate. So that's kind of like how it all started.
Nice. So I know there's a lot of 20-some-year-olds out there in college kind of at this. They probably feeling the same way as you. And as you're telling me this story, I'm thinking back to when I was 22 years old, having dropped out a few times. I feel like we've lived parallel journeys here, brother. But what do you say to that that college age kid who's getting that feeling like, yo, this bill of goods I've been sold my life, go to school, get good grades, get a good job. I'm starting to see it for the bullshit it kind of is. Not to knock people who go out there and get jobs, but like you said, it's not going to make you rich, but yet they're afraid to make that leap. Like, what was it about you that made you go out and reach up to a mentor and decide I'm over this? Like, what advice would you give somebody who's probably a young you or a young me? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So when you're younger, there's definitely a lot more room for error, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more room to make mistakes. When you get older, I know we were just talking about babies before the show, like things change and your ability to be ultra bold changes, right? When you have kids to feed and a wife or a husband and a household and things, you know, it changes. But to my young cats out there, to my young people, first off, you have to ask yourself, what do you think is going to make you happy, right? Because I truly believe that that's the real meaning of life. It's not money. It's not fame. It's not any of the above. It's like, what makes you happy? It's subjective, right? Because your life is different than mine. My life is different than yours. What makes you happy might not make me happy. So, and you can't put a price tag on happiness. So what is it that's going to make you happy? Wanting to be rich, wanting to have millions of dollars in the bank is not simply just going to make you happy. You think it might. You think it until you get it. Trust. I mean, you guys know. You could have $1 million cash in the bank. You could be miserable, right? Yeah. Successful people are miserable all the time. It's about what's going to make you happy, right? What do you really want to do that's going to make you feel fulfilled? But at the same time, ask yourself, what is it that you truly want to do with your time, right? Because whether you look at life being short or life being long, you know, glass half full, glass half empty, it's totally up to you. It's subjective. What do you want to do with your time? Back in the day, they called kids crazy if they played video games all day. Now there's kids making millions of dollars playing video games all day. So It's about what you really want to do with your time. And then the next thing I would say is once you identify whatever that is, right? Like you see somebody that has the lifestyle or the results that you want, figure out how to copy it. Just copy and paste that wheel. Like the wheel's already there. Like anybody can do what I do. You just have to follow the recipe, right? It's like making a stew. You have to put the ingredients in there. So find somebody or a system that's been proven to work and just follow that and go all in. You have to go all in. There's no such thing as not going all in to be successful, right? Either you're all in or you're all out. There's no in between.
Yep.
So that's what I would tell the younger people out there that like want to be fulfilled in their lifestyle, in their life, right? Figure it out. Figure out what makes you feel fulfilled.
And I think the key there, you hit that spot on the head. I think the key there is what makes you fulfilled, not what fulfills the people around you. Because I see so often, especially younger people, they're so caught up in the expectations of others that they completely neglect what they want to do. And it's not till later down the road that they get to their 30s, mid 30s, that they have this midlife crisis where like, shit, I've lived my whole life to the expectations of others and never pursued what I actually want to do. So the sooner you can figure that out, I think, absolutely the better.
That's a fact, bro. That's a fact. And you need a vehicle, right? You need a vehicle. So I'm a big believer that passion doesn't always pay, right? Like I could sit kumbaya here and tell you, do what you love. But in all reality, we live in a cold world. Doing what you love might not always pay you. Going to school to be a philosophy major is probably not going to steer you in the course of being an 8-figure, 9-figure earner. It might, but it's more than likely not going to. Maybe money isn't your driving force. But whatever it is that you choose to do in life or where you see yourself, you need a vehicle to get there, right? Yeah, and make sure that vehicle makes sense.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on that. I'm not sure where I heard this, but I think it was actually from Marshall Silver. It was where he's talking to a couple billionaires, and he's like, you've sold on the process of getting to billions. You've kept us up here because what you're saying, all these rah-rahs and all these conferences and saying, go after your passion, find what you're passionate about and turn that into $1 million, turn that into this. That's the biggest lie I ever sold. Make the money,
go just full heartedly into something. You may not love it, you may not, find it, but the passion is in, what you produce from that, which is the freedom to have the family, the freedom to, do the things that you love. And that's all money is freedom. It's freedom to be able to provide for those that you love. And, I've done endeavors, and I'm sure you have too, right? A couple that, earned you a lot of money, but it was painstaking in the process, right?
Oh, you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, bro. I say it all the time, man. I never loved real estate. I don't love real estate. I think it's weird when people say I love real estate, because to me, it's like I buy shitty houses, I renovate them, and I resell them. Like, I don't love real estate. I love the paycheck that allows me to spend time with my family and not work for anybody else and live the life that I want to live. I don't love what I do. Per se. I love I love podcasts. I love talking to people. I love helping people. That's really what I love. I don't love, like, some people are like, I love. Okay, well, whatever makes you happy, right? If you like it, you like it. If you love it, you love it. I don't personally love it.
Well, whether you love it or not, you damn sure are good at it, and that's the vehicle you pick. So let's unpack that a little bit, because I know a lot of listeners, and I know, like me in particular, are interested in real estate investing. We see it from the outside looking in. I'm sure it's a lot sexier than when you're actually in the weeds trying to put this shit together. I actually just got my first taste of a real estate deal. I helped finance a project for the first time and helped move some money over and took a little cut from that. So I guess you could say I made my first little piece of real estate money, and I like the way it tastes. But I know that the perception of real estate investing, at least from what I understand, is it's a high barrier of entry to get into. So what's your advice to somebody looking to get into real estate investing who thinks maybe because of their financial situation or their limited experience, that it's impossible to get into the game? I know your podcast is titled, We All Start From Somewhere. So how does somebody start from somewhere and then go on to become a real estate investor?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. So what you had said earlier is kind of like a limiting belief. And I talk about this a lot with my audience. Real estate is actually a very low barrier field to get into. And that's because there's so many different entry points. Real estate is like an umbrella, right? And you have all of these different strategies and different asset classes in real estate. So I won't say that it's completely a limiting belief, because let's say you're like, oh, I want to go and buy a skyscraper. Well, that's high barrier, right? That's way up here. But if you want to flip a house, that's low, right? It's very accessible. It's not easy, but it's accessible. It's a very simple formula, right? So there's two different strategies that I recommend newcomers. One is wholesaling, and the second one is the fix and flip model, right? And of course, you could even get into the rentals as well.
Can you walk us through each of those? Maybe give us a typical scenario.
Yeah. So wholesaling is really simple, right? Wholesaling involves you finding a motivated seller, somebody that wants to sell their property for whatever reason, right? Think pre-foreclosure, taxes, right? Think inherited properties, natural disasters, retiring, the list can go on. They want to sell their property, but the property may not be ready for the retail market, because most people that want to sell properties contact real estate agents and or realtors to sell their properties, right? On the retail market to find new buyers that want a house for them to live in. However, not all houses are ready for that type of listing. So there's alternative ways for sellers to sell their property, selling to a wholesaler, right? So for example, I'm looking for somebody, John wants to sell his property because he wants to retire and move. John's house needs a little bit of work, and he really doesn't want to have to pay any closing cost or realtor commissions, right? Because it costs money to do business when you sell your house. So John could call somebody like me or somebody else and say, hey, I want to sell my property. I then go ahead and do due diligence on John's property. I look at how much it's worth, how much it's going to need in repairs, and I kind of find out how motivated John really is. If we end up striking a deal, which I would hope we do, we fill out what's called an option contract. And that basically just gives me, Ross, the option to buy John's property at negotiated price. Let it be $50,000 for this example. So then what I do is I take that contract, I send it over to a lawyer or a title company, and they do some back work to find out if there's any tax liens, judgments, anything like that. Once everything comes back clear, right, I have it for $50K with John. What I'm going to do is I'm going to market that piece of paper to my network, to people that are looking to buy discounted investment properties. So I find Jessica, and Jessica's like, hey.
And to be clear, I'm sorry to cut you off. In this scenario, no money has actually left your pocket yet. This is just you negotiating a deal and having.
Unless I was funding a marketing campaign to get John to call me.
Got it.
Right.
Got it.
So that's really the only expense, right? But yeah, no money. I haven't paid $1 to John yet.
Got it.
So then I go to my network and I find Jessica, and she's like, hey, I'm fixing and flipping houses in this area. I'm willing to pay 60 grand for that property. So I make a deal with Jessica and I assign my agreement to her, right? Now, Jessica is the one that's going to be paying John, but this is all done through lawyers, closing companies and stuff like that. Now, for me, being the conductor of the deal, I put everything together. I'm going to get paid 10 grand in that example. And that's called an assignment fee.
Love it.
So that's pretty much like in a nutshell. Of course, it gets a little complex sometimes. There's nuts and bolts, but it's a very simple formula for anybody to get involved.
So is that basically what I just did? Somebody wanted to finance a deal and I kind of just connected some dots and because that's essentially what you did, right? You just the dot connector in that scenario.
That's all it is.
And anybody can be a dot connector.
Anybody.
That's beautiful, man. That's so beautiful.
That's the wholesale model. Yeah.
Okay. And then what was the second model that you talked about?
So the fix and flip model is like the stuff you see on TV, right? That's the fix and flip, the renovating property model, right? We're the ones that are buying those. We're looking for people to sell us John's contract.
Got it.
Right. And we're going to buy the property. We're going to finance it and we're going to fix it up and then sell it on the retail market to an end buyer. Right. So we're going to be doing more work and taking more risk.
Got it. But higher margins, I presume, much higher margins.
It could be. It could not always. It could be. I bought a deal once and the wholesaler made like 27,000, meaning I paid him 27,000. I didn't know at the time he had it for that low. When I saw it, I got sick. I'm like, oh, I bought it for like 85. He had it for like 60 something. I was like, oh, that hurts.
But how much did you make on that?
Like the same amount. Okay. I would have made 50 if I found a deal, but yeah, man. So most likely you're going to make more money doing the fix and flip, but sometimes the wholesalers figure out how to milk it.
So moral of the story, kids, is make sure you do your due diligence and research and really understand the data points of the deal so that you're not, you're maximizing your returns there. So actually, now that you're telling us these stories, man, I'd love to hear more. Walk us through like some highlight deals, man. Someone where you're like, yo, this is an exciting deal. I cashed out on this one. And hey, walk us through a deal that blew up in your face for contrast.
Oh man. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So I might not remember exact numbers because I've done a few of these things here. So sometimes I forget, but I remember I bought a deal in Pasadena, Texas, right? Which is like where I primarily invest. And I bought it for 80 grand. I actually bought it off the market. So it was an MLS deal. A real estate agent called me about it. I bought it for 80 grand using private capital, right? And I believe we put like 30 or so into it and ended up selling it for north of 190,000.
Nice.
It was a real quick turnaround, 90 days, right? That's what we aim for. In and out, right? Just cosmetics. And, we made a nice little payday on that one. Like, and I tell people like, hey, if you want to be a 6-figure earner, just find 3 properties a year. That's it. 3 properties a year that make 40K in profit. Go reverse engineer it, right? Find the numbers that you're looking for, and then just go find investments that meet those, has those numbers make sense. and you could be a 6-figure earner doing 3 deals a year. Anybody can do 3 deals a year. Trust me.
So what's your
Yeah.
process for finding these deals? I know you said you'll invest into some marketing campaigns. Is that your primary funnel? Or do you just have
It's
such
definitely
a
one of
extensive
them.
network? Okay.
Yeah. So it's one of them. So we use a variety. We use direct mail marketing, right? One of the most popular, my favorite method to get in front of sellers. We use cold calling, cold texting. However, I'm more a fan of cold texting versus cold calling. I think cold calling is a little intrusive and annoying. Some may disagree with me.
Have you put in?
I don't spend a lot of money on it.
Have
Go
you
ahead.
tested out voicemail drops?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm genuinely not a fan. I haven't really weighed the conversion side of it, so I can't say I'm not a fan of like the analytics. I'm more not a fan of, I hate getting RVMs, so I don't want to do that to somebody else,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Like I fucking hate it. I don't know if I can curse on this
Look,
show.
No, you're
You
good.
absolutely
Okay.
fucking
I check marked the explicit
Oh,
check
yeah.
mark. We're good.
Oh yeah. I think it's like the biggest nuisance, right? When like I get a voicemail and it's like, "Hard, do you want to make $2,000 in the next 24 hours?" Like,
Yeah.
God, that's not going to convert me, right?
Sure.
So, and then lastly, I do a lot of I have a lot of relationships with agents that have access to the MLS, and they're constantly finding opportunities that make sense for me, and then they put the offers in for me, and I go about doing it that way. So I buy a lot of deals from banks. Yeah.
Did you ever actually go get your real estate license, or is this all without a license?
No, I've never been licensed before.
There we go, people.
No.
Gangster.
Don't. Yep.
Yeah. So you don't have to be, right?
No.
It's a popular conversation, but I like to tell people, it's like, well, do you need a license to buy stocks on Robinhood? No, you don't, right?
Right.
You don't need a license to buy stocks. You don't need a license to buy real estate.
So with your last comment, find 3 houses and flip them, make 40K each, hit 6 figures. With selling and buying homes, we know if you reinvest that into a home, you don't pay those capital gains taxes. So how are you going about obviously working maybe the tax game with flipping all these properties to work in your favor? Maybe you'll kind of go into that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm not an accountant. I'm not a tax strategist. I'm not a lawyer. Full disclaimer, right? So I don't want to. Yeah, I really don't want to give somebody advice and then they go and apply it. And then they're like, well, I learned on this podcast that I could, I really don't want to. What I would say in that regard is you need to develop your power team. Okay? Every business owner needs a power team. And on that power team, you need 2 people. You need a lawyer, you need a CPA, right? I would even go as far as to say you need a bookkeeper as well, right? But if you're just starting out and funds are kind of tight, right, like it is for most people, at the bare minimum, have somebody that keeps your shit organized, and have a CPA, somebody that understands what you're doing, right? Being a real estate investor, there's a lot of tax advantages. There's a lot of benefits, but just make sure you have your stuff right. That's all I could say on that. Like, I don't want to start giving tax advice or anything like that. But yes, there's capital gains tax, right? There's Uncle Sam wants his piece. Yeah, he doesn't like getting paid. And especially when you buy a property, a lot of people don't even realize this because they think, oh, well, I could just take advantage of the system. Well, when you buy a property, your lawyer closing company actually sends a form to the IRS, right? So it's mandatory to fill it out. So like they know you just did a real estate. Yeah, like they know that you just closed something. So it's like they know. My advice to anybody is get a CPA, get somebody that understands what you're doing, what industry you're in. And if it's you doing it, if it's your spouse, if you're hiring somebody like an online company, make sure your books are proper. Because if your books aren't proper, you are going to have a terrible, terrible headache, very, very bad headache. And tax season comes before you know it. And then when it's time to open up the books and your shit's all messed up and you're like, I don't remember spending $3 at Walgreens, and you have to go back and you're like, why did I spend $3? And your accountant's like, what's this and what's that? It becomes a big mess. So just have a CPA in your team. So I can say.
Perfect segue. Today's episode brought to you by Legal Shield. For $1 a day, you can have access to legal advice and tax attorneys. Shameless plug, but this is my podcast, so y'all gonna have to live with it.
I thought that was real for a second, man. I was about to say, damn, bro, props to you. Sponsored by Legal Shield. Holy shit!
No, dead ass, bro. That's one of my businesses. So
I love
absolutely.
It, bro.
Slide up in my DMs if you want to learn more. But no, great question, Dustin. I mean, I think so often people, when they're building businesses, don't take into account these things, and in the first year they get royally fucked because they didn't understand their tax implications or their tax burden. So that's definitely something you want to be aware of, not just in real estate, but in life. Taxes are going to be the biggest bill you ever pay. So it's definitely a worthwhile investment to make sure you're approaching that properly.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
about to get a little more expensive too.
Right.
That's for the second episode when we bring Ross back. So you started killing the game in real estate, and then you went on to become a teacher yourself. So you learned the game, and now you giving the game back. How did that come to be? And talk us through that, man. Like, what you've helped others do.
Yeah, so I think I made my first $100,000 in Houston. It was more money I've ever seen in my life. I couldn't believe it, and I was on this like high horse again. I was like, I'm a millionaire. I'm going to the Lambo dealership. Like, we're rich, baby. We made it. No, but all seriousness, I made like my first $100K or so, and I went back to where I'm from. I'm from New York, like the suburbs of Manhattan, the Hudson Valley. Not like the Manhattan, not like the New York people think of. Like, it's very woodsy and mountains and, the suburbs. I went back to my town, small town, Stony Point, New York, and I saw people I went to high school with, man. They were still working at the mall, and they were still working at the McDonald's I worked at, and they were all pissed off and angry because they were working for $8 an hour, and it was getting them nowhere. And when I saw that, I had this like aha moment, and it's like, oh, why is so-and-so working at the go-kart place at the mall, when if only he knew how simple it is for him to get in real estate, he wouldn't have to be here. And it reminded me of when I used to work a job and I hated it. I was like, well, this guy's probably never going to find out. Like, he needs somebody to tell him, like, hey, there's another way. And I went back to Houston, and I started doing more business and got more success. And when I started to put it all together, I said, hey, I've been doing this for the last 2 years, 2.5 years or so. Let me see if I can actually put this into a box and give it to someone else and have them do it. I had a business partner at the time in an online marketing business. His name was Amir. This guy completely changed my life too. And he was like, hey, I want you to take this dry erase marker, go to the whiteboard, and teach me 6 steps. How do you flip a house? And I did it. I wrote it down. He said, hey, man, that's a course right there, and people will buy that from you. You need to break it down like a pill. Let somebody take the pill so that they know what you know. And that's what I did.
Mind breaking down those 6 steps real quick. Can you give us those? You don't have to go into depth because they got to buy the course.
Simple. Yeah. It's evolved, but basically, like, first you need to start marketing, right? You got to start marketing for property, right? You have to get leads. Leads are the blood to the business. No leads, no business. The second step is you need to actually identify that opportunity. Does it make sense? Is there something there? Because not all leads are hot leads. Some leads are duds. Some leads are shit. They're not worth their time. So identify the opportunity. The next thing is you need to set an appointment, right? You're going to qualify that lead and set an appointment to go and see that property and meet that seller and see what's going on. See if it's something that you can do. Step number 4, you're going to make the offer, and you're going to negotiate with them. You're going to estimate your repairs, right? There's a few different things that happen. Step number 5, you're going to close on the property, right? Whatever exit strategy it is, you're going to close on it, whether you're using hard money to buy it yourself, private money to buy it, your own cash to buy it, or you're wholesaling it and you just contract it. And then step number 6 is your exit, right? What are you going to do with it? You're going to keep it. You're going to cash flow it. You're going to wholesale it, right? It's the exit strategy. So really simple.
Nice.
And that's how the course
came.
So
you created this first course?
Yeah. I called it flipping.
Awesome.
No, I called it. It wasn't flipping. I don't even remember what I call it.
Was it flipping on formula? Fire, I think.
No, that came after. It was like there was like the 6-step formula, man, something like that. And I booked a room at a hotel. This guy, he changed my life. This guy. I hope he's watching this. This kid was my age. He was making hundreds of thousands of dollars online. I met him in Vegas at that event. He moved to Houston with me. He lived out of his car. It's crazy. It was like a movie. This guy's like, hey, this guy had a movie studio in his beat up Toyota Camry from 1986. It was crazy. So he's like, hey, we're going to go and see your houses and I'm going to film you and you're just going to tell us what's going on. I was like, okay, let's do it. So we go out, tour all these properties, took all day, 10 properties. We go out, this property, that property. We got all this footage and we created this. He's like, hey, I'm going to do everything. Just give me half of what we make. It was off to the races from there, man.
That's
Love
awesome.
it. And then how has the coaching business grown since then?
Oh, it was nuts, man. Nuts. I don't coach as much anymore because it's very time intensive.
Yeah.
It's very time intensive. And there's a lot of stress that comes with coaching that I think not enough people talk about, you know, what it really takes to be a coach to somebody, right? That's paying you. Even if you get them results, right? You're taking on a huge, huge burden, right? It's like an elephant. There were times I was losing sleep because of it, but you know, I still do it from time to time, but not as much. I started helping people, man. They started making money. All my students made money. I've made a promise to myself that I'm not going to stop coaching somebody until they at least do one deal with me, right?
Nah.
As long as they're still in it.
Not like most of the coaches out online today. Here's
Yeah.
$2,000. Here's my 1994. Make 100,000 by next week.
It gets a bad rep, bro. It does. I mean, some people, they make their first dollar and think that they can coach somebody. And it's like, well,
learn how I made $100,000 selling courses to make $100,000. You know,
that's it. It's a lot of that right now. It's like an epidemic, man. Holy smokes. I go on TikTok. I see these 14-year-olds claiming they make $100,000 a month drop shipping on TikTok. I'm like, oh my good Lord. Like, and they're selling their courses and everything. And I think that's cool if you're getting results and you're actually a player in the game, but like, man,
once you actually understand that industry, it's pretty funny. Cause I mean, you can make $100,000 fairly easy, but it's all about the margins. They didn't.
You said it, not me. You said it.
It ate it all up. You didn't make nothing. You may have sold $100,000.
Then they never lose, right? Yeah. You got these like Robinhood traders on TikTok, like they're posting their earnings. They never lose.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Come on, man. You gotta talk about your losses if you're a coach, because it's the reality, right? You don't want to sell somebody a fake dream. Like, you got to give them the whole enchilada.
Yep.
So you've held true to that promise, though? Every single student that's ever worked with you has done a deal?
Every single one that has been committed, right? Because this is an important topic. You know, a lot of people think they want success, guys.
Oh.
You know the deal. Some people just think they want success.
They're just success zombies.
Yeah, like
they just consumption.
Yeah, I mean, you got the guy that thinks he wants to be successful, but when it comes time to put in the work, he doesn't anymore, right? Or it's like, you know, you're being mean to him, or, you know, he doesn't like your attitude, or he doesn't want to do what you told him to do. So they end up dropping out, right? Yes. But anybody who's stuck with me, I've made sure that they've made money. And a lot of my students today are still in business, man. It's awesome.
Love it, man.
Yeah,
so you've been crushing it as a personal investor. You've helped others crush it. So where did this whole tech company come to be? How did that transition?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. So I love tech, right? Remember we talked earlier about like loving it. I love tech. Like I'm a software geek. And I think that just comes from providing solutions. Like I love providing solutions to things. So I got involved with a few different tech companies. I actually became an owner of a real estate lead company that did a whole bunch of stuff for investors. Sold my portion. Some shit went down. Wasn't pretty, boys. Wasn't pretty, boys. No. But yeah, so I'm like, you know what? I did it there, and I'm just gonna do it on my own. And you know, I just built my own thing.
Right.
So,
What was
yeah,
the
it's
idea inspired by? I mean, the previous company you said was lead gen, but what you're doing now is more so, it's, at least from what I gathered,
virtual assistant.
virtual
Yeah.
assistants help with more of the admin stuff, but they can also
Yeah.
help with lead gen.
So cold
How did
calls
that
and
come
such.
to be?
Yeah. So I taught a course years ago how to hire and train VAs as real estate investors, because real estate investors can really lean on VAs to get a lot done in their
Yeah.
business, right? Like, for anybody out there that hasn't started a business yet, if you're thinking about it, or maybe you just got started, if your biggest downfall is going to be you trying to do everything in your business, like you can't do, like there's a myth that there's this thing called like multitasking isn't real. Like it's just not, right? Like you can't, your brain is not hardwired to you think you're multitasking, but you're really not. What you're doing is you're jumping from task to task.
It's the difference between being busy and actually productive.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, right? It's like, you can't be all in on something if you're bouncing from back and forth. Anyways, so I'm a practitioner. I was using VAs in my business. They were helping me get deals. They were helping me make money. I put together a course and I showed people, and they were like, hey, where do I find these VAs? And I started talking about Upwork. And this is back when Upwork was Odesk, and before Fiverr even was really a thing. And I started to, show people, hey, this is where you can do it. But the biggest problem, and here's the solution: when you're a US based, or, any first world country base, right? And you're hiring people just getting started in your business, right? Funds are the biggest resource that you need. And a lot of people don't have access to that. So there's obviously other countries out there where there's people that are willing to work for you for less in our money, right? USD, cheaper. So it's cheaper work, cheaper labor, right? But high skills. But the biggest problem is you'll get somebody on board your team, you'll train them, you'll dump hours and hours and hours into training them, and then come Monday, they're gone. They disappeared. They took another job. It's a huge deal in the freelance world, and you'll never hear from them again. And this happened to me time after time after time. I'm sure you're shaking your head. You could probably relate to me. You're like, I know what he's talking about. Yeah. So I was like, well, you know what? Well, what if I put together an agency where they don't have to worry about people quitting? I'll worry about that. So I'll find, hire, and train the people. And when clients come in, they pay for the service. They're guaranteed their services. And if somebody quits on me, that's on me to replace them. So it's kind of like a white glove service for people that want to delegate things, but don't want to have to deal with the hiring and the training and all that stuff.
So are you you're sourcing these VAs from other countries? What is that process like? How do you reach out to international potential recruits for your agency?
Yeah, so Upwork is a huge one, probably like the main one. Upwork, and then I'd say the second biggest one is going to be word of mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I've been working with actually his name's Jameer. I just had him on my podcast. The guy, he lives in the Philippines. The guy's a beast. He's one of the best funnel builders I ever seen in my life. And he's a freelancer on Upwork. It changed his life. He went from living in poverty to building a mansion for himself. And
wonder if that's my cousin.
It might be. Does he live in Philippines? So anyway, so I've been working with him for like 7 years. So if I need help, I'll say, hey, do you have anybody that knows how to do this? He go, yeah, I got a friend down the street. He's looking for work and he knows how to do this. And then we'll just kind of plug up and go into the training and all that stuff. So it's kind of how it works.
We're definitely huge proponents of the virtual assistant, especially in the Philippines. Dustin and I just actually hired our first virtual assistant in the Philippines. You're actually the second person we've had on that has been preaching this message. So success leaves clues, guys.
Nice.
VA, good move. Holla at Ross.
Yeah.
He's got him if you're in the real estate game. So that's absolutely, I love it, man. So it sounds like you've always been kind of thinking one step ahead, and I think that maybe is a major indicator as to why you kill it the way you have. Can you maybe speak to the importance of thinking outside the box, evolving, especially during this time of COVID, when a lot of businesses are going under, but a lot of businesses are also thriving? And from what I've seen, it's because these are the businesses that are thinking of new ways to tackle old problems, which it sounds like you've become very adept at doing. So can you just talk about that, staying agile in business?
Yeah, for sure, man. So first off, entrepreneurs, right? What we do, no matter what industry you're in, is we connect pieces of the puzzle together. Like that's all we do, right? Like you said earlier, we connect dots. And everything that has ever been great, right? Apple, Amazon, Google, Uber, right? What any huge, massive $1 trillion, billion company all started by solving a problem, right? So if you want to think outside that box, right, that a lot of us are kind of like forced into, start looking around you and think about problems that you have or that you see, and kind of gauge like, hey, like, do other people have this same problem? Because we're really all alike, a lot more than people would admit on social media. But when the cameras aren't on, it's like people are more alike than they think. So if you have that problem and it bothers you, well, it's probably bothering somebody else. So figure out, test the waters, and kind of figure out, hey, can I solve this? I just had a baby 9 months ago, right? You guys have, you guys know the deal, right? We just talked, Dustin, about you have a 2-month-old, right? Yep. How much stuff did you get for the baby shower? All the toys, the clothes, all this shit. It's all over the house. What are you going to do with it? They use it for a week and it's over, right? And they don't want it anymore. The price of these clothes is outrageous.
Oh yeah.
You're spending money. They use it for a week. So that's a problem. Well, what am I going to do? Okay. I could go on garage sale, I could sell it on eBay. One woman, I just read this on entrepreneur.com. I forgot the name of her company, but she created a whole app. It's a whole marketplace dedicated to parents selling used baby stuff. They don't sell anything else. Strictly niched, baby niche. It's genius. It's a multi-million-dollar idea. She's solving a problem, right?
Oh yeah.
And when you start to think like that, it's like, how can I solve a problem? If you're a real estate investor, you're solving a homeowner's problem. So you always kind of have to be ahead of the game, because there's somebody out there. It's like this mentality right now. Somebody out there right now is working harder than you are, period. It's just how it is. There's always somebody bigger than you, smarter than you. There's somebody out there that's building the next $1 billion idea. And just knowing that in your head, that somebody out there could be creating what you've been thinking about for the last couple of months and haven't done anything about. Ooh. Like Gary Vee says, ideas, they're fucking worthless, man. Everybody has ideas. Ideas are fucking worthless. Unless you execute on them.
I mean, just look at Lyft and Uber. You don't got to be the first on the scene. Just do it a different way.
You don't have to be first, man. You just have to be better, right? You just have to do something a little bit different, right?
Yep.
I hear this in real estate all the time. Oh, I can't be a real estate investor. There's people doing that all over the place in my town. So what does that mean? Yeah. Right. So Facebook might not be around forever. MySpace died out, right? Things change. People
it's Parler now.
Oh yeah, there's the new one. You see, the new one's already out. The new one, but it happens quick, right? TikTok is 2020, guys. TikTok is insane. Instagram is dying compared to TikTok, right? It's changing people's lives. I mean, did you guys see that video of the dog face guy? This guy is just in a video with Snoop Dogg, the guy with the drinking the cranberry juice.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
This guy makes one video. He's on a commercial on TV with Snoop Dogg. He's making money. He's changed his whole life.
Yep.
So there's always something new, right? You just kind of have to try and be ahead of that curve.
100%, man. And with respects to that, with everything going on in the world, what do you see? Because, there's a lot of people saying we're going to see a big market crash and everything's going to come falling down. Like, what's your forecast for the real estate market over the next 6 months, a year? How are you preparing?
So personally, I mean, there's a lot of economic talks right now, right? And again, disclaimer, I'm not an economist. I didn't go to Harvard for economics. So take this with a grain of salt. But
you had me full, bro.
It's okay. All of those guys have projected completely wrong for forever now already. Anyway.
So people talk about the economy. Yes, there's definitely trouble in economy, not just in the country, but in the world, right? Because of the pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs. Today, the Xbox X came out, and I see hundreds of people buying this $500 Xbox. And I'm like, thinking to myself, like, wow, like people are buying Xboxes right now. Like that's a luxury item to buy, right? And it's just, it lets me know that there's people out there that are still making money. And in real estate specifically, there's obviously different levels to the real estate single family space. Got the high end, the middle end, and the low end. In 7 years, I haven't experienced a huge crash, right? So that's another thing. I'm not experienced enough to say that I was in the 2007 housing crisis, right? But every time that there is turbulence, the bottom of the market that I'm in, 250K and down, is rarely affected, right? Because you literally can't build a house for cheaper than what I'm selling my products for. And rent-wise, to a lot of people, it makes more sense to buy. They take advantage of low rates, right? They want to buy a house, whatever the case may be. I don't know where we're going to be a year from now. I'm optimistically cautious. Like I'm cautiously optimistic that things are going to be okay. In the lower market, middle market, I can't speak for the high upper end market. I would expect that, with job loss and stuff like that, if the pandemic continues, then there's going to be layoffs, and the people that get laid off at the higher, like the big companies, are usually the ones that are buying those higher end products. So then you start to see the higher end properties sit on the market for a lot longer. There's less money being pumped into the economy. So it could be something for the higher end market, but for the lower end market, like it's just, for me, it's business as usual. I look at data. I'm a data guy. So I see a lot of, like right now we're short on inventory. There's literally not enough inventory out there for people to buy houses.
I live in Boise,
crazy.
Idaho. Yeah. We had 0.2 of a month's inventory. Like we're just blowing up out here. We've doubled in the last like 5 years. We're just,
bro, you in Boise?
Yeah.
Bro, you know Russell?
Yeah.
You cool? You guys cool?
Yeah. You see him all around town, man. He's an awesome guy.
Sweet, man. It looks beautiful over there. But yeah, so
it's
I mean, economically, we kind of just have to wait and see. We got to get this.
So speaking on data a little bit, what do you think? Because the 2007, 2008 obviously was impending doom. It was going to happen with how they were doing things, but I don't think the the internet age was prepared. I don't think the market was prepared for the internet age, because the market's cyclical. It's going to happen no matter what. It'll rise and it'll drop, and it'll rise and it'll drop. So we've been in such a bull market, but with companies like Airbnb, like Lyft, like Uber, that are all allowing people to consistently make money on the side or make extra money than what they were prior making. How do you see that affecting either a dip upcoming, maybe with the foreclosures and the loss of homes and stuff coming up with the new presidential elections and after the COVID situation? But how do you see that affecting in the coming years? Because everything's changed, and I don't think the market's quite ready for that personally.
So to rephrase your question, are you asking with people making side incomes or shifting their occupation?
Online income, side income, freelancers? The freelance world, it really wasn't too much of a thing back
as far as people claiming that income and showing it to banks to get mortgages, or
as far as the market itself. Like, I mean, every 8 to 10 years, generally there's a crash, there's a dip, and that's the cyclical motion of the market. But with the ever changing of the ability of somebody to go out and get that side income and stay afloat or grow or expand, the market it's driven us into a long bull market right now. And then COVID hit. How do you see that maybe repairing the problems that we have right now as we go forward, because people are able to actually make up that money and we're not able to, like, the lower doesn't get hurt as bad? Or do you see it length?
That's a good question, to be honest with you. So where I can only speak on where I invest, like what I'm used to, So Houston, Texas, right? It's a big oil and gas town. The people that buy houses from me, they work at the plants. They work in oil and gas. If oil and gas is affected, right? If
In
oil's
the next
low,
4 years, maybe.
right? There's layoffs, exactly, stuff like that. That creates turbulence for guys like me,
Yeah.
right? But it doesn't just create turbulence for guys like me. It also affects the higher end stuff because oil executives make a lot of money, right? I mean, I like to look at it as at the end of the day, everybody needs a place to call home, right? Like everybody needs a place to live. So if people aren't renting, they're buying. If people aren't buying, they're renting. You can make money, I feel, in any market. You just have to adjust your strategy. I had a few gentlemen on my podcast the other day that actually made their fortune after the crash of 2007, 2008, where they were buying properties up.
The most money is made during a
yeah,
dip. Yeah,
exactly. Like they bought 500 houses in like a year or two after that. So I think that for me personally, and this is my ignorance, like I said, I'm not an economics master here, so I might be being ignorant here, but for me personally, I just think that people need to learn how to adjust. For example, 2015, I was buying houses for 35 grand. It's unbelievable. That was normal for me. I was buying houses for 50 grand, 60 grand. If somebody tried to sell me one of the houses I was buying in 2015 for 100 grand, I would literally burst in laughter. Now, those houses that I was buying for 35 grand, they start at 120 grand. Like, it's not possible to buy those same houses. So I had to adjust because I wasn't used to that. I'm like, now my business, I'm going to go out of business, right? Like, if I can't buy these houses for this price, I'm just going to go out of business. So I had to adjust. I think that at the end of the day, as investors, we all just need to adjust with what's going on. It's easy to get caught up in the macro stuff, right? Like, what's this? What's but for me, it's like, I would recommend, and for myself, just show up every day, learn how to adjust to different market cycles. If the market does take a dip, you go into buy mode, right?
Yeah.
If the market goes into a dip, prices come down, you go into buy mode. I think right now a lot of properties overvalued, right? Because the inventory is so low. I see people paying for multifamily units outrageous prices. Outrageous. Where 10 years ago, the prices were 75% off. So
are you exiting a lot of projects now?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I actually sold my last flip in February of this year. I sold, that was the last one in my inventory. Since then, I haven't bought anything since then. So I haven't bought anything in quite some time. And that's because when the pandemic started, I got nervous. We didn't know where this thing was going.
Still don't.
Yeah, exactly. Also, not just, and I'm a transparent person. I'm not going to bullshit you and say, I was just watching on my computer, I was nervous. No, there's no inventory out there. Sure. So it's like, it's tougher to buy. It's tougher. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm buying 20 houses a month, because I'm not, because it's tough. You look on MLS, there's barely anything. And if there are, I put 30 offers out in one day. I got beat. I got beat by all of them. It is a funny story. My contractor outbid me on a flip. I'm like, you son of a bitch. And
I taught you everything you knew.
Yeah. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. He outbid me. So I'm not like, everybody has their own tolerance and investment thresholds with what they're willing to pay and what they're willing to risk. And a lot of people out there are willing to pay way more than I am. So because of that, this is my personal issue. Their inventory is low. So what do I do? Right? What do I do? Well, do I just stare at the wall and do nothing? No, I got to adjust, right? You got to expand. You got to look elsewhere. A lot of times I got comfortable. With my system because it was like rinse and repeat. I could do it 1,000 times. I was doing it. And now that got disrupted. So I'm like, holy shit, what am I supposed to do? I just have to adjust, right? Look at other markets, right? I'm in New Jersey right now. So I started a new company. right? NJ fast offer. Now I'm going to start doing some deals here. So it's
Love
just
it.
like always just adjusting, man. Like, that's it.
That's
See,
that pivotal moment where, you
Yeah.
could either just crash and burn, or you can definitely make that adjustment.
And that's why you need multiple streams of income, because
Yes,
one
sir.
basket
Yeah.
might get fucked up.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I think a major takeaway that I like to emphasize is, yes, in down markets, the money doesn't disappear. It just shifts hands, and a lot of times ends up concentrated in fewer hands. So the goal is to just make sure you're one of those fewer hands, because the money, again, did not just evaporate into thin air.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a seller's market right now, so there's no dip yet. Well,
No, not yet.
yeah.
Was it Manny
so-
Koshman? I think he bought and sold the same building, like not a skyscraper, but a big building, for like during 2 dips. Made like millions off the top each time. He's like, I'm just gonna sell it when it's high, buy it when it's low. He plays the long game, man.
Well, what do you think? What do you think we're gonna see 2021?
I see inventory is going to go back up because foreclosures are going to take effect. People are going to, you can't go this long pushing back foreclosures, pushing back rent without, consequences. It's going to happen one way or another. But I see a long V. I see us coming back. I mean, we're about to break 30,000 on the Dow. We've never hit that high. So either we're going to get high and we're going to crash back down in a W, or we'll sit with a V. I think we're going to be on a V.
So this is interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. So I was listening to something the other day. I'm not the stock wizard. The more I talk, I don't think I'm the wizard at anything. No, but seriously, I saw something the other day, and it was talking about how the market is not an indication of how the people are doing. It's an indication of how the top is doing.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
They've profiteered off of the COVID, that's for sure. I mean, the small businesses have seen the blunt force of the entire.
So
pandemic.
how does the Dow being up affect John, who just got laid off from American Airlines? That is
to your point, I don't think it does
for 4 months.
Yeah. To your point, I really don't think it does. I mean, it touches the top. It's an indicator of the top and not so much the everyday person, unless that everyday person is become a Robinhood trader in the last 2 to 3 months, which a lot of people have. And
that's where those other areas of income, like freelancers, going out and creating your own thing. It's not meant for everybody, of course, but then also it's kind of like Amazon has grown exponentially throughout this time and taken on lots of hats throughout the pandemic, but they've also hired on hundreds of thousands of people and brought on new workers. So where one job's lost, others are gained, but it just puts more people, obviously business owners and people of different industries, into different places of work and back into that, repetitive grind. So there's going to be a lot of transition over the next couple of years, that's for sure, as new things emerge.
I agree. You gotta do what you gotta do to survive.
Oh yeah.
I love how Ross is going into his podcast mode now, starting to flip the interviews here. I see what you're doing, brother.
Well, hey, I've been talking my butt off, so I'm interested, because I know that you guys are very heavy into economics and markets, and you guys are like the brains. Well, Dustin, I know you like the brain, man. I'm just I'm the gas pedal,
man. I'm just curious. I just like to ask good questions. But I know, brother, we're coming up on time here. We're actually probably past it, and you've been more than gracious with it. So we appreciate you being on the show. We definitely need to continue this conversation, whether that be on a second episode or, hey, maybe on your podcast. Who knows? But maybe just a couple more quick fire questions, and then our final question, and we'll go ahead and call it an episode. So I'm curious to know, for somebody willing to or looking to get into real estate investing, what is just a book you recommend for somebody to just grab and start learning the game a little bit?
For real estate investing specifically, or
anything in general. Anyone who's looking to get onto their entrepreneurial path.
Go write a book, Russ.
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh yeah, that's classic.
Love it.
Rich Dad Poor
Classic.
Dad.
And who was the mentor? I know you said you started off mostly following your uncle's teachings, but who's the mentor today that you really or unless it's still your uncle, but that you really are following?
Yeah, so definitely still my uncle. His name's Alan Schnur. You can look him up. And my second mentor, Stefan Arnio, rest in peace. Great guy, changed my life. One of my good friends. Unfortunately, we lost him this year, but check him out. He wrote this book called Hard Times Create Strong Men. Guy was brilliant. He's one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life. It's unbelievable. So definitely Stefan.
Love it. And Dustin, I'll go ahead and let you hit him with the bring it home question.
Awesome. Well, Ross, obviously we are the Dedication to Excellence podcast. So we do like to end with our signature question, which is, in your mind, in your words, what does it mean to live a life in dedication to excellence?
That's a good one. What does it mean to live a life in dedication to excellence?
What's your East Coast accent? I fucking love it.
I think at the end of the day in life, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, you have to do what makes you happy. You can't put a price tag on that happiness. So first off, figure out why you want to do something. Why do you want to do anything that you're thinking about in your mind, right? If your mind can conceive it, you can achieve it. But why do you want to do it? That why has to be strong, right? Like Stefan always says, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not strong enough. So you got to figure out what that why is for you. And you have to show up every single day, right? That's Grant Cardone 10X rule. You have to show up every single day if you really want to live that fulfilled life and achieve that excellence. Anybody can do it, right? The world was created by people no smarter than you or me, right? Everything that we have, our phones, our computers, people, human beings created this stuff, right? Companies, Uber, the guy was sitting one day say, hey, I want to get a private car. How do I do it? It's going to take me an hour. I got to call them. You know what? Let me build an app to make it happen. And he's a billionaire. If you truly want to have that success, that excellence, right? Whatever that means for you, because it's subjective, figure out what that is and don't lift your head up until you get there. Don't get drawn back away from your goals and brought down by negative people that don't want to see you win. Because entrepreneurship is lonely. They don't like to tell you that, but it's a very lonely world to be in, right? A lot of people won't understand you. They'll call you crazy. They'll look at you funny and think you're weird because you stopped going out on Friday nights. But because you know what it is that you really want to do, you know what your legacy wants to look like, you know what you want to achieve, put your head down, get to work, show up every day, and you'll make it happen.
And that's the game right there from Ross the Boss. Bars. I love it, brother. Well, thank you so much again for your time. And please let the people know where they can find you and follow your journey.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to connect. Ross Alex Flips on Instagram. Drop me a message. And I'd love to connect with you guys.
Absolutely, bro. Well, hey, again, one more time on behalf of myself and Dustin, thank you so much for being on the pod. If you're listening, hope you got some value out of this. Please subscribe, leave us a review. We've been on a tear as of late, and we have a goal of reviews to get to so we can be featured on a up-and-comers list that'll open up our audience to many, many more, millions, hopefully. So I appreciate y'all who've been showing the love and support. I hope you're continuing to get value. Please tell a friend, and we will catch you on the next episode. Y'all stay blessed. Peace.